Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. My name is Carl Hughes and I'm the CTO at the Grade Network and I'm founder of Portable CTO. Today I'm going to be talking about what it's really like to work at a startup as an engineer. And I'm going to dispel 5 myths that you hear commonly talked about how great it is working at startups. And I'll tell you 5 truths about how great it really is to work at a startup. But first, a little about my journey. I started off getting out of college and joining a company running both their blog and building a lot of software that helped run the blog behind the scenes. From there, I went on to join Packback as their first engineer, where I eventually went on to lead their team of engineers. And now, joining the Grade Network, I've gotten to help lead and build our team of engineering and product people. So, today I'll tell you a little bit about my perspective, and I've had a wide variety of roles at startups, so hopefully this helps. The first myth you'll hear about working at a startup is that you're going to get a huge equity payout. This is rarely the case. Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of startups are not huge financial successes, and chances are if you come into a company early with a little bit of equity, by the time you leave, it's going to be so diluted and everybody else is going to get their share first that you're not going to end up with a ton. Plus, you've got to wait for it to vest, not only at your company, but if there's an exit event, you also have to wait for that stock to vest at the company that purchased yours. So it can end up meaning that you wait for years to finally get $10,000, $20,000, which it may sound like a lot, but for the amount of salary you give up, it may or may not be worth it. Now, the upside to working at startups, the first truth is that you will get to help set the culture, standards, and the technologies that get used there. Most engineers at larger organizations get thrown into an existing bureaucracy with a lot of rules and a lot of ways of doing things. And sometimes that's good for people, but in a lot of cases, we as engineers may like to innovate. And at a startup, you're going to really get that opportunity. The next myth you'll hear about working at a startup is that you're going to have to work 80 hours a week all the time. You'll never get a day off. Well, this is just simply not completely true. There are times when it's necessary to pull an all-nighter if the servers go down or something crazy happens, but I've rarely had weeks where I couldn't get away for a few hours to hang out with my family or to sleep or to go on a vacation. And I think it's pretty rare to see startups pushing engineers to this level of demand. The truth is, you're going to have a lot more freedom to choose the projects that you work on and how you work on them. What this means is more flexible hours. Maybe you'll get flexibility in where you work. You'll get flexibility in the kinds of projects you take on. You'll get to work with different team members on different things. And this can be really helpful for learning more in your career. The next myth you'll hear about working as an engineer at a startup is that you have to be a full stack rock star hacker to work at a startup. Well, this isn't true either. To be honest, most startup engineers are pretty average, and they're probably not that different from you. Rockstar engineers occasionally do go work at startups where they get a large berth to do what they want to do, but the truth is, if they're truly great, they're going to go work at a place like Google or Facebook where they can get paid 2 to 3 times more than they could at a startup and not take any risk of an equity. So when you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense for rockstar engineers to only work at startups. The truth is that at a startup, you're going to have to be willing to learn everything and teach a lot of it to yourself. This is something that can be really challenging, but also really rewarding. At a large company, junior engineers may or may not be able to contribute at the level that they do at startups. And so one of the best skills you can learn when you're in a startup is the ability to learn. So learn as much as you can at a startup while you're there. The next myth you'll hear is that startups are magical money machines that are somehow more productive and groundbreaking than large organizations. Every startup these days wants to talk about their AI, machine learning, natural language processing, augmented reality, Bitcoin-related things that they're doing. But the truth is, large companies know those technologies exist and they're looking at them as well these days. So there are times when startups are ahead of the curve, and a lot of the times they're really quick to adopt new technology. But there's a lot of times when startups are just scrappy and trying things that larger companies don't have the bandwidth to try. The truth is that startups are constantly facing uphill battles. And if you go work for a startup, you're rarely going to have the resources that you want to finish projects as you'd like. This means you may have to cut some corners on development. And it's really hard for some developers to say, take a back seat, make testing take a back seat, or to play fast and loose with the structure of their code or their architecture. But the truth is, startups have to move fast, and that's how we get rewarded in startups. The next myth is that there's a lot of risk for engineers at startups. I used to think when I was leaving college that working at a startup might mean I'd lose my job and tomorrow I'd have nowhere to sleep. But the truth is, there's a lot of jobs out there for engineers, and being at a startup where you get to work with a wide variety of technologies can really help your resume. So even if it's just a short stint at a startup that shuts down, it could still help boost your career. The truth is, the work environment is flexible and usually pretty fun, the connections you make are invaluable, and you really can't beat working at a startup as an engineer. I honestly enjoy coming into work every day because I like my coworkers, I respect them, and I really like the work I do and the impact it has on students and our users. So if you're interested in working at a startup or you've got more to add to the conversation, feel free to leave a comment below or find me on Twitter at Carl L. Hughes. Thanks for watching.